Now I know lots of you watching this like engines and like playing with engines and messing with engines and fixing problems with engines, and that's exactly what I like doing. That's what I have to do today. Small engine, single cylinder in a lawnmower. Now a neighbour just drove this down to me, and it's not running very well at all. It's missing, and apparently there's no power in it. It's a single cylinder Briggs and Stratton industrial commercial engine. I don't know what horsepower it is. I'd say it's I don't know, 8, 9, 10 horsepower maybe, something like that. I have no key. He's right. It's a 13 horsepower. It's actually a pretty new engine. What does it say in it? Diamond or dynamic or something? It only seems to want to start when it's in the choke position. I love driving these little small tractors. They're so much more fun than the big ones, really. New spark plug, inline filter and battery, 20th of May 2010. It has been serviced, apparently, this season, or before this season anyway. So, it's been acting up like this, according to the owner, for the last couple of weeks. So, I'll do some investigation and see what I can figure out. Right, well, I'll take off the air filter anyway and get to the carb. I might just drain out the bowl in the carburetor first, just in case that water in the sediment bowl there is the problem. But I don't think it would be water. Water would give a more intermittent fault than something like that. So we'll delve in here and see. It's probably a blocked jet or in the carb or something. Which way is he bent? That's going to pull that across the top like that, and this one just goes in there and goes run. Okay. Right, so there's my carburetor out. So I'm going to put that on the bench now and take it apart, and hopefully the problem lies in there. All will be revealed. So this is the float bowl, and the float is basically like a little, same as the float in the cistern in your toilet. Floats up and down, regulates the flow of fuel to the carburetor. If it can often happen, the float gets stuck, and if the float gets stuck down, it keeps allowing fuel, more and more fuel into the carburetor, and over fuels the engine. Now, I do see some rust in the bottom of that, which would indicate that there was water in the fuel, but I don't think it's entirely unusual to see rust in the bottom of that. That's kind of common enough occurrence, but it's just if that bit of rust has been floating around, it could block some of the jets. Now, what is a little more worrying is that you see bits of rusty stains on the jets, or on that main jet there. But right, so there was some dirt inside in that jet. Now, the amount of dirt in it was absolutely minimal, but that's all it takes, just a tiny little amount of dirt in one of the jets in any carburetor for any car or any sort of petrol engine can really upset things. Now, you're never supposed to put like a wire or anything through it to clean it. You're supposed to clean it with an airline or something like that. Now, the jet in the carburetor goes up from the bottom. This is the float here, the float bowl goes over that. The jet goes right up through the middle of it, and this intake butterfly, if you look down in here, the top of the jet will just be appearing up there, and basically the jet is where the small jet of petrol comes up through the bowl where the petrol is and comes up into the carburetor here, and it's the jet that kind of starts to atomize the petrol to turn it from a liquid into a vapor, because it's petrol vapor that gets sucked through the carburetor into the engine, not in a liquid form. That's why the jet is so important. Another thing that is commonly happening with older engines, older vintage cars and that I see, is because petrol nowadays has a lot of methanol in it, which it didn't have years ago. Methanol is actually quite corrosive towards things like brass, like of a jet and a carburetor, which are brass. Now that's no problem for a modern car because it doesn't have any brass components in the petrol system, but an old car or an old vintage tractor or lawnmowers, which mightn't be that old but still use old technology, do have brass parts in the fuel system, and the ethanol in the petrol can corrode those brass parts very quickly. Also, that modern petrol, it goes stale a lot quicker. Goes stale a lot quicker than the old petrol used anyway. So I have it back on there now. Just taking these lads up. Don't ever over tighten anything that is an aluminium housing, because it won't go well for you. Okay, get my fuel line back on. Fuel coming out of it anyway. That'll take a minute to fill up the float bowl first. Well, it's running better. I wouldn't say it's running perfect now, but it's running better. Right, well I got it running much better now. The reason I don't think it wasn't running very well, I had forgotten to tighten the float bowl. So I tightened that up and I pinched up the other two studs there a little bit, and I adjusted the mixture setting on it. Just there's a small little screw adjustment on the side of the carburetor for the mixture, and just played around with that a little bit just to get it to run a bit smoother, so it doesn't seem to be missing or backfiring or anything now, so I think that's the problem solved. She seems to be running okay anyway. It's really annoying because the clutch and the brake are all in one, so you can't stop smoothly. Anyway, I really do love Briggs and Stratton engines. I think they're probably the best small engine ever made. Most people think Hondas are, personal opinion of course. I'm a Briggs and Stratton guy. Thanks for watching.